Hello everybody, my name is Delzarslit, and today we're going to be having a little bit of a reaction video, checking into something that's really neat. Well, it's always neat, it's always pretty, and it's always good. This is game theory. Am I a few days late? Yeah. Is it gonna matter? Probably. Will I actually care that much? Yeah. At the same time, hey, I got shit to do, you know? Anyways, BGI. I was gonna say this is just a regular game theory shit, but knowing that Pat, there's no context for when the hell he decides, fuck it. Last few theories, time for another ARG. BGI, a system act ally, copyright, Hold electronics, forcing to 16 extender. I don't think there's anything I can read or understand from that for the most part. Four theories
Hello, Internet.
remain.
Welcome to
Fucking
Game
hell.
Theory, the show that's never afraid to go outside for scraps of lore. You know what? I've been in a bit of a
Mm-hmm.
bubble recently. With these
Yeah,
being my final episodes, I've been so focused on tying up loose ends, continuing franchises that I've
that is actually kind of a thing I was noticing. I was like, okay, so is he just going for the pure nostalgia route where the last few theories will be cutting off the future and we just cauterize it? Yeah, we cauterize the timeline, we slice off the future, and he just moves on with what he has that he's done before and he just wraps them up. But seems like we're actually moving into something new with Lethal Company, which now makes me question again. If you're gonna be moving into something new, does this mean you're just gonna leave it with what was his name? Alan Oliver? Something like that. The British one. You're just gonna leave that with the British dude? Is it the British dude who's taking over Game Theory, or is that the other channel? You know what the fuck I mean.
grown up with over the years, doing the episodes that I never had the chance to do, that honestly I've
Mm-hmm.
been missing out on some of the newer games that have been coming out. But today, I'm gonna change that, simply because this game has been impossible to miss. It has
You
been
can't.
all over the YouTube space. It even managed to sell more copies than the latest Call of Duty. I'm talking about everyone's favorite survival horror co-op game.
A game that I couldn't even dodge. And the thing that about it is, I didn't even pay for this game. Someone decided to pay for it for me because that's how damn popular the company is. I can't escape it even if I wanted to. It was literally thrust upon me.
Game of the moment, Lethal Company. The game itself is pretty straightforward. You and up to 3 of your friends have been hired by a mysterious organization known simply as the Company. You travel around to different moons with abandoned bases collecting scrap, and when I say scrap, I do mean literal junk. Broken
Mm-hmm.
engines, street signs, even teeth. Basically, if you can find it
Yeah.
on an episode of Hoarders, the Company wants their hands on it. Oh, and did I mention that there's also hideous monsters trying to kill you the entire time? No? Well,
Fucking
neither
hell.
did the Company. And so now you and your team have to risk your lives to reach the Company quota. Fail to meet it over 3 days, and suddenly you're released of your duties Among Us style. If you do manage to toe the Company line, though, and reach the quota, you are handsomely rewarded with another 3 days of work and a new higher quota. Capitalism. It's great. Currently, there's no ending to this
Fuck.
game. The cycle just keeps repeating on and on until inevitably your team fails to gather enough scrap, or you die trying. And for most players, that's where it ends. They're just happy running around collecting scrap, screaming and twerking as they do. But the experience doesn't have to end there. Oh no, my friends. The Company is hiding something from us.
You mean like the fact you're playing a game about landing on things that don't exist?
God, Tom, we've been over this. The moon.
Excuse me. What? Oh yeah, his name was Tom, not Oliver nor Alan. Hmm. It's still wearing the Yuji Itadori fit. Wait, is it Yuji Itadori or is it Itadori Yuji? Fuck, I forget which way you're supposed to say it when it comes to Japanese names. It's Itadori is his surname, so that goes first. So it's Itadori Yuji. Yeah.
Exists, okay?
That's what the company wants you to think.
Forgive him, he's out of line. But he also does have himself a
Mm-hmm.
point. Not about the moon existing, that's clearly stupid, but the idea of a
Okay, so I'm assuming that it's just a long-standing meme at this point because it feels weird to have like an actual person on Team Theorist believe that the moon doesn't exist. But now that I think about it, having someone who's that into conspiracy and questioning the reality of the nature of the world, even when it is apparent, would make a good person to put on Team Theorist. Huh. Well, damn. Okay, anyways, back to the video.
A company conspiracy. You see, by finding hidden files, scanning creatures in the game, and using some good old-fashioned real-world history, we can actually start to piece together exactly what went down in the Thistle Nebula. Why everyone's missing, why there are monsters patrolling these moons, why is the company the one behind it all? Strap into your ships, loyal theorists, because we're gonna salvage every scrap of lore that Lethal Company has to offer. Now, in order to figure out what's going on with the company, we first need to figure out what's going on with the world, or worlds that the company currently operates on. I mean, these places are completely desolate other than the monsters. And yet, here we are, collecting scraps from human-based civilizations, like cooking utensils, or whoopee cushions. And something tells me that these mutant spiders aren't really into fart pranks. People clearly used to live here on these moons. Then something happened. Something that managed to wipe out not just one planet's worth of people, but dozens of planets worth of people. When we're playing the game, the terminal tells us that the year is 2532. So your initial thought might be that years into the future, we killed the planet, we colonized the moons, only to die out as a species anyway. And you know what? You'd
That'd
actually
be
be kind of
cool,
right about that. The thing that's probably more
but there's
surprising,
monsters
though, is
here.
the timeline of that happening. In your ship, you can find a sticky note that gives you a secret code to
What?
punch into your computer terminal. Doing this gives you access to a former crewmate's personal logs, a character known as Sigurd. Sigurd gives us a lot of information about the operations of the company, but the thing that caught my
What the
attention
fuck?
the most was the fact that they were made in 1968, a whole
Oh,
year before Neil Armstrong first stepped foot on the moon. Now that
wait,
sounds
what the
pretty
fuck?
conspiratorial to me, and it turns out that there are some space travel conspiracy theories that align perfectly with these dates. There's one theory out there that believes space travel was achieved during World War II by the Nazis, who sent a bunch of their high-ranking officers to the moon in order to avoid prosecution. These officers then built a base on the dark side of the moon and continued their war efforts from afar, very far, waiting for the proper time to strike back. Now, obviously in real life, this
So, I'm sorry. First off, I don't need the ever have the imagery in my brain of space Nazis. Actually, I just realized, yeah, no, Darth Vader and all of it. Okay, anyways, space Nazis. What the fuck? At the same time, Jesus, that'd be awful. Then again, could we get a good little vampire, a small flat bomber jet, and some good music playing, and send Alucard up there to deal with them? Yes, I want Hellsing Ultimate's ending, but on the moon instead, as a shitty fucking anime movie with an infinite budget, because it would be fun and dumb.
is ridiculous. But in the world of the game, this would actually tie into the idea of moon bases and the ability to traverse the galaxy before the 1960s. There's even a poster
Oh, and also make sure to Team 4 stars the people writing it.
in the game that seems to confirm this type of timeline. Inside your ship, there's this poster right here that talks about preserving food. This isn't just a fun poster made specifically for the game, it is a real poster that was used during the 1940s, which seems to imply that mankind has been operating in space since at least that era, if not even earlier. Except, obviously, this poster is not German, it's from Pennsylvania. Notice down here it says, in cooperation
American
with Work
company.
Progress Administration. This was a government program designed to employ people to work on public projects like construction of buildings and roads. And in the game, clearly this has seemed to have moved forward into NASA-like projects as well, which would seem to imply that the company wasn't always in the business of collecting scrap. Instead, it seems to suggest that the company got its start helping the US government win the space race. This then is starting to feel a lot less like the Nazi moon base conspiracy and more like the 1959 study known as Project Horizon. This study was done by the US
fuck is
military
this?
and was essentially their attempt to colonize the moon in the name of good old-fashioned patriotism. But obviously this was the military, so of course a big part of the plan was to build outposts and design weapons specifically for moon and space-based combat. One of those
Excuse me, but moon combat, space combat. Wasn't America also at one point planning to make themselves a fucking Death Star? Can we like just understand and wrap our heads around this shit? Why do you need to weaponize things on the moon? Just keep your asses on the land, put your guns down, and relax. Vibe. And then remember you have oil and then stop doing all the things I just told you to do. But okay.
weapons was a modified claymore or landmine. And remind me again, what's one of the hazards that we have to be aware of while we explore all these abandoned moon bases in the game? Oh yeah, landmines. It seems to me that in this universe, Project Horizon was a success, or at least something like Project Horizon. And it seems like the company has been there since the start. You'll notice that all the landmines and turrets that you can find throughout the game are all suspiciously controlled by the terminal on board your company's ship. It's likely the reason we can connect to all this technology is because the company designed these systems to work together. together, they created both the ship and the weapons that are on these moon bases. So if you're a company that has a government contract to make some space weapons, how do you make money? Well, by inciting and fueling a space war. In one of the dialogues, Sigurd says, quote, "I miss Dad. I hope he isn't staying on Titan. People are saying it's not going to look the same in 2 years. Just told us they are about to go to war, and everyone is waiting for it. Every time we go to sell, the company building is shaking like there's a loud furnace inside. War is a brewing in this galaxy, and everyone seems to know that it's coming. And while it's not clear what the noise inside the company walls is exactly, the fact the noise has kicked in at the same time Sigurd starts talking about a coming war gives me reason to believe that the company has ramped up production of all its weapons. And just like Project Horizon recognized the need for newer, more space-efficient weapons, the company also seems to have developed a new type of weapon to use in this upcoming war. The most common type of base that you explore throughout the game is called a factory in the game files, and this makes a lot of sense. Remember, these are the bases that are controlled by company technology, so it's likely that these were the factories being used to create the weapons that we've been talking about. But outside of just the mines and the turrets, there's another kind of horror that's waiting for us inside of these factories. The monsters that are actively trying to chase us down and kill us. Some of them are descendants of creatures from our own world, like the snare flea and the spore lizard, which are part of the same class as centipedes and alligators respectively. But then there are others that are less naturally occurring.
Yeah, no, those are fucking
the
monsters.
jester, for example. These are man-made objects that have been
fucking
repurposed
Poppy
and
Playtime
brought to
ass
life to
shit.
become deadly weapons. That might seem like a stretch, or at least it does, until you take a look at the in-game bestiary. Reading through the in-game bestiary, you find entries like this one for the coil head. Quote, "They've been known to combust into flames when being dissected or even deactivated, and they carry dangerously high levels of radioactive particles. Due to this and other reasons, it has been highly speculated that they were created as biological weapons of war." This was how the company was going to prove its worth during the arms race. Biological weapons. Creatures that would kill anything they found and cause untold devastation for years to come thanks to their radioactive makeup. And it's these weapons, I suspect, that ravaged Titan,
actually
and likely all
really
the other moons
fucking-
that we visit as well. Sigurd was
I don't want to say smart, but that's kind of effective. It's like, hey, how do you want to ruin this place? Well, we're in space, and we're not going to use this moon, and we want to eradicate everyone on it. Release living things that just radiate things. I was like, oh. Yeah, no, that's effective.
was right. These places would look different in a couple of years. Rather than thriving colonies, we're instead met with desolate wastelands, abandoned factories. The only signs of civilization we find is scrap that we're collecting. Items belonging to the moon's former inhabitants, now left to waste in the aftermath of a war. A war that the company itself profited from. But if this was so profitable for the company, why then are we now just reduced to a bunch of scrap collectors? Well, because like every other evil corporation in these sorts of games, eventually they took things too far and lost control. In one of the earliest of Sigurd's logs, we hear mention of a golden planet that was supposedly destroyed by a passing meteor. This sounds like it could be another conspiracy theory, and Sigurd and his team certainly think that there's nothing to it. But surprisingly, the idea of a golden planet, it is totally plausible in reality. Introducing 16 Psyche, a minor planet that orbits between Jupiter and Mars as part of the greater asteroid belt. Due to how reflective it is, scientists have hypothesized the surface might be covered in large amounts of metal, things like iron, nickel, and yes, even gold. The approximate value of all that precious metal is estimated to be worth $10 quadrillion.
Hey!
1,000 Elon Musk's worth of metal on this thing. In fact, due to Psyche being noticeably more metallic than most other asteroids, some scientists have hypothesized that it may actually be the metal core of a once larger planet-like object, one that was destroyed when it was, get this, hit by a meteor. In the logs, we hear that Sigurd eventually learns that the golden planet was real. The only difference, though, is that it wasn't a meteor that destroyed it was something much bigger and much worse. One day, while Sigurd and his team are
rocket
selling
hit
scrap
it.
to the company,
They
he fires
fucking
up the
did a test
walkie-talkie and
bombing
starts
on it.
hearing strange sounds from behind the wall of the building. The sound of screams. But among the blood-curdling screams, Sigurd's able to make out a voice that tells him the golden planet wasn't hit by a meteor. Instead, it was swallowed up by something called the Beast. And that whoever was sending this message was inside the Beast currently, being digested by it. This planet-eating monster is locked away behind the walls of the company. And now the company is doing everything in its power to keep it satiated. When you return scrap, the game plays one of a few short voice lines from the company. Usually these things are just vague company platitudes.
We value your commitment. You are true professionals.
But there's actually a small chance, around 3%, for a secret rare voice line to play. And these are a lot more ominous.
We need you.
We need you. The scraps we deliver to get these voice lines are the things that keep the beast at bay. It's a planet eater after all, so we're just feeding it anything and everything that we can find. And you know what fetches the highest price? A bar of gold. Perfect for the monster that has itself an appetite for planets made of the exact same stuff. Sigurd in his logs also starts to connect the dots. Quote, what if there really is a big monster in the company building like the voice told me on the walkie-talkie? They trapped it and we feed it to keep it tame. But what does all this have to do with the company taking war profiteering too far? Or the ones trying to help in this situation?
I'm assuming that they originally started using its blood and DNA to try to use it. Sadly, they realized that, oh, we have poked this thing a lot, stabbed it a bunch, but at least it's being tamed right now since we fed it. They stopped feeding it for a little bit, and it started fucking up and destroying things. And now they've realized, okay, we gotta keep doing that. And as for why did the company fail, simple. They keep putting more and more resources into this thing, realizing that it is taking more than it can give.
Well, remember earlier, I said that one of the company's biggest sources of money was making weapons. And over time, weapons only become more and more advanced. It's kind of the inevitable law of warfare. In our world, we went from muskets to rifles to bombs to missiles, and eventually we reached...
Yeah.
Weapons like nukes are so dangerous because of their indiscriminate and massive amounts of destruction. Everything and anyone that's caught in the blast is laid to waste. And so what happened after America set off a couple nuclear bombs during World War II? They went in and they tried to fix some of the damage that they caused. Since then, treaties have been signed about using these weapons of mass destruction because they're so dangerous to everyone and anyone involved. And
yeah, there is no,
what I believe
like,
is happening.
With a bullet, you can try to not hit your fucking friends. With a nuke, if they're just within range, there is no trying. They're gone.
Here in Lethal Company. As the company continued to make bigger and even more complex weaponry like the coil heads, eventually this would evolve into an even more powerful weapon, one that would devour anything and anyone in its path.
Oh,
in one
instead
of
of
vlogs, he mentions trying
it
to
being
use
a
his
naturally
flashlight
occurring
to
thing that they
company
use,
building behind the counter where he drops
he's
off
making
his
the argument
scrap.
that
He
it
says,
is something
quote,
that
my
they
flashlight
created
didn't
as
even go
opposed
back
to-
there. The beam just went dark.
Yeah.
Sounds an awful lot like a black hole, one that's been created as the next stage of biological weaponry. Think about it. If someone had the power to create and control their own kind of black hole, they'd be unstoppable. The problem was, they clearly did lose control. Instead of just laying waste to anyone that stood in their way, it devoured an entire planet, including the innocent residents that remain conscious inside of this monster to this very day. Knowing that they had just made a massive whoopsie, the company swooped in and tried to fix the mistake, containing the monster within one of their old complexes and constantly feeding it food to keep it satiated so it wouldn't cause any more unnecessary destruction. Maybe this is why they're just called the company and only use text-to-speech voices. They're specifically trying to seem generic, unidentifiable, so that people won't suspect that they were the ones that caused the disaster all those years ago. It's also
We are
probably why
the
they only send you to
company.
planets that they know are desolate. I'm sure there are other more resourceful, abundant locations out there in the universe, but that would draw too much attention to what they're actually doing. They need to keep this entire operation under wraps, which leads us to today and the ever-increasing quotas that we have to reach in order to keep things under control. In the words of Sigurd's crewmate Desmond, quote, it's all a guise. We're supposed to think that it's all a transaction, but our real job is keeping an incredible terror fed. How long until its fullness ends and its hunger is insatiable? I actually think that there's an answer to that question. Remember those secret lines I mentioned earlier? Well, there's one that sends us a very specific warning.
This wall cannot contain it.
The beast right now, it is contained inside these walls as we're feeding it. But as Desmond said, the beast is never truly full. The more it eats, the more its hunger grows. As we play throughout the game, with each passing 3-day cycle, the amount of scrap that we need to bring it only increases. But there's only so much scrap out there in the universe. And with the beast's appetite only growing stronger with time, eventually there won't be enough scrap coming in to keep him full. There is no winning in Lethal Company. There's only delaying the inevitable. But here's the thing. While the game's been taken over the internet, it's still only in early access. That means that there's more story on the way, and likely an actual ending. Right now, you can just loop over and over until you can't make the quota, but players have managed to find something that I think ties into where the game's actually going. If you manage to parkour your way underneath the company building, you can actually find a drill on a track pointed straight at the company building wall. It's currently missing two pieces of scrap known as apparatus, devices that are used to power the factories on the distant moons. It's speculation, but I think when the full game releases, this is gonna come into play. Maybe we're following in the path of Sigurd, believing that there are people that need saving behind these walls. And so we end the game by powering the drill and busting through, only to reveal the beast, who then goes on to destroy everything. Basically, the devs got us in a perfect catch-22. Either we stop playing the game and stop feeding the beast, causing it to break out of the company building, or we keep playing. We find the apparatus and eventually free the beast using the drill from the company building ourselves. Either way, we are dooming the Thistle Nebula. There are no good endings in Lethal Company. And that, my friends, is
Hey,
the lore of this game.
all
An
is
alternate
good in good
universe where
company,
war profiteering in space
and
leads to the
lethal in
inevitable death of
others.
humanity, no matter what you do. It is a bleak ending, but you do have to admit, the name of the game, it is very accurate. A business that dooms the entirety of the galaxy, truly the definition of a lethal company. But hey, if you're tired of collecting useless scrap for a below average paycheck, then you'll want to take a look at what today's sponsor SoFi has to offer. They want to give you guys the chance to win $10,000, way more than anything the company would ever offer you. Plus, there's zero chance of accidental or even purposeful death. If you don't already know, SoFi is the ultimate finance app that allows you to bank, borrow, and invest all in one place, which, as you guys know, has come in handy for me multiple times in the past. Right now, I'm in the process of planning a road trip across Europe. You know, enjoy a bit of my newfound freedom once I step away from the channels and all that. But it turns out all those flights, rental cars,
the
hotels
get out
are
of
not
here
cheap,
mission.
but SoFi makes it super easy to keep track of what I'm spending and what I'm saving. And it's not just about keeping track either. SoFi offers a huge 4.6% APY with direct deposit, which for reference is 10 times what most traditional banks are going to be offering you, and way more than the garbage offers that Jeb gives you. This means that you're making massive interest by doing nothing at all. In just 5 weeks with direct deposit, you'll have earned more interest than you'd make in a year with a traditional bank. Plus, if you're new to SoFi, they'll even help you kickstart your savings by giving you up to 3
Early access to direct deposit funds is based on the timing in which we receive notice and payment from the Federal Reserve, which is typically up to 2 days before the scheduled payment date, but may vary. Okay. By the way, please, I'm going to leave the link in the description, that way everyone can get out there to SoFi. I'm probably going to check it out if I still remember to do so, but I hope y'all have a lovely day. I hope y'all enjoyed what I had to say. This is a few days late, and I rambled and didn't talk as much as I usually did in other videos, but hey, I do me. Anyways, I hope you're all doing a really good day. You can like this video if you enjoyed it. Comment because you got something to say. Subscribe because you think that I'm somebody who's worthy of your subscription and or somebody that you want to come back around and support. And please, just get the fuck out of here and support Matt Pat and to get rest of the Theorist crew and the entire gang. Anyways, I don't have any other stuff to say. Just check them out.